Okay, KP, we're going to make Italian Easter nest bread. I sent Mom and Dad this picture that Marin took of our recipe up on the wall, but it can be a little hard to read, so I also sent Mom and Dad a link if they want to print a regular one from the computer. But I'm going to use the one that we would use on the wall. So the things you need to make Italian Easter nest bread are flour, sugar, salt, milk, butter, eggs, and yeast. And there will be a sprinkle surprise later, but I don't have those out yet because that's the very last step. So the first thing that it says we need to do is have 1 1/4 cups of milk, which I already measured into the measuring cup. That has to go into a pan. You could also do this in the microwave if you didn't want to use the stove. And it says that we're going to also put in 1/3 cup of butter. I already measured 1/3 cup, and we're gonna be melting it. And I know when I'm trying to melt butter that it melts quicker if I cut it into smaller pieces. And usually when we cook together in school, this is a job that I ask one of the KP friends to do. So I'm gonna break it into some smaller pieces. I'm gonna put those pieces in with the milk. And then we're going to go and heat that up over low heat on the stove just long enough until the butter melts. I'm going to heat up the milk and the butter and keep stirring it gently just until the butter melts. We don't really want to cook it. We just want to melt the butter. And then we'll let it sit and cool for a little bit. Okay, I think it's just about ready. I don't see any chunks of butter anymore. So now we're going to let that just sit and cool. Now in a big bowl, we're going to mix together some eggs and yeast and salt and sugar. We'll start with the eggs. We always crack them into a separate bowl just in case we get eggshells. Here's 1, 2. I know my KP friends would be really volunteering for this job. It says that we should beat them before we put them in with the other stuff. So use a fork. Break up that yellow yolk in the middle, mix it together until it looks like all one big yellow blob. Okay, that can go in the big bowl. Now we're going to need 1/2 cup of sugar to go in there. This is the part where I would have one friend hold the measuring cup and one friend scoop, but I'll do both today. This is 1/2 cup of sugar. Right up to the top, but not overflowing. Perfect. We also need a pinch of sugar, or of salt rather. This is my salt. And whenever I'm doing a pinch, oh, it's a little stuck. I usually just put a little into my hand like that. That's about a pinch. So I'm gonna put in a pinch of salt. Now it says we need 1 package of yeast. Mom or Dad probably got yeast that looks like this in little packets. If you don't have little packets at home, then you need about 2 1/4 teaspoons if you have a big jar of yeast. Some people buy it like that. I got the little packages for us today. So, open up the yeast. Wake up the yeast monsters. And pour them in with the sugar and the eggs and the salt. I'm gonna mix all those things together. Eggs, sugar, salt, and yeast. And then as long as our milk and butter mixture has cooled down, we're gonna add that in there. Remember, the yeast monsters like it to be warm so it wakes them up, but not too hot. I'm gonna go check and see if that's the right temperature. All right, my milk and butter is still warm, but it's not too hot. So it should be just warm enough to wake up those yeast monsters. So we'll pour that into our yeast and sugar and salt. Mix it all together. Okay, and I'm gonna let it sit for a minute, see if it starts getting fizzy. I might use a little whisk to get it mixed up a little better. Okay, let's let it sit for a few minutes and see if we get some yeast bubbles. All right, we're starting to get a few bubbles, but for this recipe, we don't have to wait for the yeast to be all done getting woken up. We can put the flour in right away. So it says that we're gonna start with 2 cups of flour, just to start out. And there's 2. gonna start out with just that much and mix it together. But we know from all the times we've made bread dough before that before we can do the press and fold, it has to look a lot like Play-Doh. And this does not look like Play-Doh yet. Still really wet. Oh my goodness. Okay. That's definitely not enough. So now it says to keep adding flour half a cup at a time. We can try 3 more of these and see if that's enough, but we'll stir after each one. So here's half a cup. I don't think that's gonna be enough. Sure do wish I had some KP friends here to help me stir. I could make Marin do it, but she has to hold the camera. All right, that was one. That's not enough. It doesn't look like Play-Doh yet. Let's try another. Well, it's getting a little thicker, but it's definitely not Play-Doh yet. I cannot pick that up with my hands. All right, let's try another. Don't worry that I'm running out of flour. I have another whole big container of it. Let's try that. Better. I still definitely can't pick this up with my hands though. All right, let's try some more. Well, now it's starting to look a little more like dough. Better, but it's still too wet for me to pick up. I'm gonna try one more scoop. This is the last of the flour I have in this container. I'll refill it before we do the rest. Dump in that much and try. Oh, that might have done the trick. Okay, I think it's looking stiff enough now. I'm gonna get a little bit more flour so my hands don't get sticky. I'll put in a little bit more. If you still need more flour in yours, put in one more half a cup. All right, I refilled my flour and we're gonna start pressing and folding in a minute. So we always put some flour on the counter at school and spread it around so it doesn't stick. We have this flour ready for our hands. So I'm gonna rub that all over my hands so my hands don't stick. And get our dough onto the board. It's okay if it's still a little bit sticky. There, all right. So now we're gonna press and fold for about 5 minutes. Press, 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 and fold. Press, 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 and fold. If it starts getting a little sticky, just spread some more flour around there and put some more flour on your hands if it starts to stick. Get more flour because I know we'll need it. This is a very sticky bread, but it is very tasty. KP, you're gonna have to teach Mom and Dad about press and fold because they might not have ever done it. But this time you're not counting to take turns. It's really hard. We want to make the yeast monsters burp, and we're going to make the bread hold on to those bubbles with our press and fold. So keep doing press and fold for about 5 minutes. So now we're going to put our bread in a bowl that we've sprayed with cooking spray. I'm going to put it in the bowl and then flip it over so that both sides get some of the spray on it. We're gonna cover it up with a towel and put it in a warm place for 1 hour. All right, we'll come check it in 1 hour. All right, it's been 1 hour. Hopefully our dough got a little bit bigger. Let's see. Oh, it got a lot bigger. Excellent. Okay, now we're gonna take it over and punch it down. It's so much of that sugar All right, this is the fun part. You have to punch it down, and when you punch it down, you're gonna feel all the air go out. I'm gonna put a little flour there so I don't stick. Oh. I'm gonna punch the air out first. There we go. All right. And now we're gonna take our dough out. And we're gonna need to make 12 pieces. And they should all be about the same size. So I'm gonna break it into 2 pieces first. And then if I make 6 out of each of these, then that should make 12 altogether. 6 plus 6 would equal 12. So I'm gonna put that one in half. And then I'm gonna make each one of those into 3. Try to make them even. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And do the same with this one. Okay, they should be about the same size, so if one looks a little bigger, just pull some off and add it. And get a little more on that one. Okay, they're close. Now we're gonna make some ropes. All right, each piece is going to be made into a rope. So first I'm gonna kind of get it going in my hands. And I'm gonna roll it. I think I'm gonna do it right on my counter. I'm gonna roll it and squeeze it into a rope. We want our ropes to be about the length of a ruler. That looks pretty good. 1. Okay, so when you have 2 loops, you're gonna pinch them together, and then we're gonna braid it by just twisting it around and around and around, around, until you get to the end. And we're gonna turn it into a little nest. And we'll put that nest on our baking sheet. Marin rolled out her snakes and now she's making her nest too. That's the last one. Okay, when we put our nests on our tray, I used a silicone sheet there so they won't stick. You need to put something down there, either a sheet like this or parchment paper if you have it, or if you don't have it, you can spray the tray with that cooking spray that we used on the inside of the bowl first. So now that the nests are all made, we're gonna cover them up and we're gonna let them rest for another hour. Okay, they've been resting for another hour. Oh, they definitely got a little more poofy. Okay, now let's make them fancy before we cook them. So we're gonna brush some stuff on top to make the eggs kind of shiny and to make the magic sprinkles stick. So you'll need 1 more egg. And we're gonna mix that egg with just 1 teaspoon of water, just a little bit of water. Mix that together really good. And we're gonna spread this over the tops of our nests. And we're putting that there so that our sprinkles will stick. If you don't have sprinkles, you can just use a little bit of regular sugar, or after they cook, you can use a little powdered sugar. But I found these sprinkles and I thought they were great. Okay, they're almost ready to go in the oven, but there's one last touch that we're going to do. These are called nest breads because they look like a nest, but they look even more like a nest if you put an egg in the middle. So if you have extra eggs, and I'm only gonna do it with 2 because I'm kind of running out of eggs that I need to cook with later this week. But if you take an egg, it doesn't have to be cooked yet. You can just stick it right in the middle, and while the nests bake, the egg will cook too. And you should be able to eat the egg at the end like a hard-boiled egg. We'll see if that works. Okay, now they're going to go in the oven at 350 degrees for about 15 or 20 minutes. We'll see, we'll test them after about 15 minutes. The oven's ready. Okay, our breads should be done. Let's have a look. Oh, they look beautiful. We'll take them out to cool. So we'll have to wait for the eggs to cool before we can take them out and find out if the eggs actually cooked like they're supposed to. But the bread definitely cooked like it's supposed to, and it looks beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this bread baking video, and I hope you get to make Italian Easter nest bread at home too. Okay, Marin's back from her hike. She's gonna try our bread. She likes sprinkles.
Mmm.
Is it good?
So good.